In this video, I will walk you through the process of cleaning a simple rent roll file so we can get it data ready for MSA Analyzer. Again, anything discussed in this video, you can find it in our comprehensive tutorial PDF, which goes through the step-by-step process for cleaning both a simple rent roll and a complex rent roll. When we talk about a simple rent roll, we're talking about a rent roll file that contains the tenant or unit information in this format. So for each unit, you have one line designated to that unit with all the information on that line, versus like a complex rent roll where you may have one unit with multiple lines assigned to that unit. So it makes it quite complex to analyze the data. With a simple rent roll, all the unit information is on a single row. However, most of these rent rolls come with more than the needed data that you need for your analysis. What we're trying to accomplish is take a messy rent roll, such as this simple rent roll, into a format. So this is a clean format, so we can easily copy this data over to our MSA Analyzer to analyze our rent roll information. Going back to the original copy, when I first receive a simple rent roll or rent roll data from a broker, the first thing that I do is create a duplicate of that sheet. To create a duplicate of this sheet, you want to right click on the sheet name, select move or copy, select move to N, and make sure you check the create a copy checkbox. If this is not checked, Excel is just going to move the sheet over, but it's not going to create a duplicate or a copy of that sheet. And the purpose of creating a copy of that sheet, if you were to make an error, delete a cell, delete a number, delete a column that you did not intend to, then you can always go back to the original file. With a duplicate of the rent roll sheet created, now we can use this as our working copy and make all the changes, such as deleting any unnecessary columns, filtering on this sheet. Select the entire sheet or the entire content of this sheet by clicking Control A on your keyboard, or selecting the area between column A and row 1. That selects the entire sheet. Go to Home. If it's not already selected, click on Home. Go to Merge and Unmerge and make sure there are no merge cells. So you want to unmerge it. So if you click on Merge and Uncenter, unmerge cells. Next, click on the column bar, right click on it, go to Unhide to make sure there are no hidden columns. So you want to unhide any hidden columns. The next step is to copy and paste as values only. So you want to override any embedded formulas within this sheet. In order to do that, you right click, select copy, right click again with the entire sheet still selected, paste special, and go to paste as values only. What that does, it overrides any embedded formulas. So when we're doing any analysis and we're copying the data over, we're only copying values and not any embedded formulas. As you can see from your rent roll, it looks quite messy. And the reason you see a lot of these greens and the arrow, these are warnings, because when the data was copied over from the property manager software into Excel, a lot of these data was saved as text. So Excel is giving you a warning that the data within those cells is stored as a text. But we need to convert everything to numbers because we want to perform our analysis on numbers and not text. Excel will not read a text as a number. So if you have any data that you're trying to analyze and that data is stored as a text, Excel may not be able to perform that analysis accurately. To convert everything within this sheet into numbers, select one of the cells without error, press and hold Shift on your keyboard, click on that area between column A and row 1. You're going to have that warning come up. Click on the drop down and select Convert to Numbers. Once you select Convert to Numbers, Excel converts all the data within this sheet that was stored as text into numbers. And now we can look through the data to see which information that we need for analysis, and we can get rid of the information that we do not need for our preliminary rent roll analysis. What you would notice with a lot of the simple rent rolls, this is a more complicated one, but they tend to have a lot of the charge codes and the different contract charges to the tenant within the rent roll file. Whereas with a complex rent roll, you have that on different lines. And when we're doing our analysis, we don't need a lot of these columns. So you can either just delete it from your rent roll, or you can just move it to the side. The main columns that we need, if you were to remember, if you go back to the MSA Analyzer, what we need from the simple rent roll is the unit, unit type, square footage, tenant name, market rent, effective rent, move-in date, lease start, and lease end. If we go into our rent roll data, it starts with this residential ID and lease ID. We don't need that information. So what I usually do, if I have like the rent roll information here, I just move it over to the unit. You can just drag it. Because I don't need this information at this time, I can just delete it from my working copy. Again, I have the original file. I can always reference it if I need to, but for my working copy and for the information that I need for the MSA Analyzer, I don't need that at this time. Unit designation, I don't need this column. I can just delete it. The square footage that's needed, the unit lease status, that should already be part of the tenant name. In this case, we have computer generated tenant names as well as some of the vacant units. Unit lease status, let's leave that for now because you will find that in some of the leases. And there's some information that we need to get rid of, such as applicant or like pending resident. Move-in date, that's a required column. Move out date, we have lease end, so I don't need this. I can just get rid of that. I'll just delete it. We have the lease start, lease end, move-in date. We have the market rent, but the market rent comes right after the tenant name. So we can just cut this, go over to move-in and insert right before move-in date. So that's going to move the market rent in front of move-in date. Tenant required deposit, I don't need that at this time. I can either move it to the end of my table or I can just get rid of it. For me, I usually just delete it because that's not needed. So I can select these 3 columns for now and just delete it. That information is important, like the tenant balance. Once you look at the deal and it's penciling closer to the asking, then I will go back and review that tenant deposit just to see if there are any balances, the amount of rent owed, any bad debt. But for my initial rent analysis, I don't need that information. The lease rent, I need that after market rent. So you have the market rent, the effective rent, that's the same as the lease rent. I can just cut this or copy it, go right before move-in, but after market rent, and insert the cut cells. So I have my market rent, lease rent, move-in date, lease start, and lease end. And that's all the required information that's needed to copy this data into my MSA Analyzer for analysis. Everything else is either not needed or not required at this time. I can either just move it to the right, or for me, just to keep a clean working copy, I just delete this information at this time. If we wanted to just compare it to the required information, is unit type, which is the same as the floor plan, the square footage, the tenant name. In this case, there's an extra column, and we'll revisit that in a second. The tenant name, the market rent, the effective rent or the lease rent, the move-in date, the lease start, and the lease end date. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, it would have the tally. This information we don't need, so we can just delete this total. And the last part that we have is this extra column. Within this rent roll, there are some tenants that are either just applicants or tenants that their leases are coming up and they need to renew. Sometimes the rent roll software would designate those as applicant or pending renewal. These pending renewals are tenants that already live within that unit, and it's just notifying the property manager that tenant needs to renew their lease. So it's just a duplicate record within this rent roll. So we need to sort the table and delete anything that says applicant or pending renewal. To sort the table, I select the entire table. So select the title, unit, scroll all the way to the last record of the last column, go to data, filter, and that's going to create a filter on the different column titles. And I want to filter by unit lease status. in ascending order. And I'm just going to look through this table. Anything that says applicant, I'm just going to delete it. Scroll to the bottom. Anything that says pending renewal, these are just duplicate records for tenants that already have occupied units within the property. Delete that as well. So we have all our vacant units, we have our tenants, and now I can get rid of this filter and just delete this column because I no longer need it. With that done, my data is ready to be copied over to the MSA Analyzer. Just want to make sure that the rent roll data format we have on our MSA Analyzer is simple, and I can copy my data, not including the column titles. So from the first cell of the first record all the way to the last cell of the last record, the last column, go into my MSA Analyzer. It says simple rent roll. If it wasn't simple, I'll select simple, and I want to paste that data, paste special, paste as values only. With that pasted, there's just one more step that we need to do, and that's today's date. If we take a look at the rent roll, see when we received this rent roll. So this was received 10/16/2023. Let's assume the broker sent it to us at the end of the month, and we're doing our analysis first day of November. So let's assume this is November 1st. With that completed, we can just scroll to the right. We can see our MSA Analyzer does a comprehensive analysis of the rent data. We have our lease up information, the status of the different leases, how long the tenant has been at the unit, the month into their current lease, the duration of the current lease, and what they're paying, the current effective rent. Based on today's date, the analyzer will also tell you the number of expired leases, as well as the number of leases that will be expiring in the coming months. And if we scroll to the right, we have a detailed breakdown of the unit mixes that shows you the different unit types, the sizes of each of those unit types, the number of units, number of vacant units, occupied units, the market rent, the effective rent. In this example, there were 318 units, 24 vacant units, 294 occupied units, the gross potential income, which is the maximum rent that you can collect for this property, as well as the maximum effective rent. It also shows you the average rent based on a user specified time period. If you wanted to look at the last 1 month, you can see the average rents for each of those unit types. If you want to look at 3 months, you can see the average rents for the last 3 months, as well as the number of units that were leased within that period. As you can see, this MSA Analyzer can quickly analyze your simple rent roll, so you can go on to your analysis, and all the data from this rent roll tab will flow into your unit mix tab as well as your renovations tab. And I just want to mention again the step-by-step process for cleaning your simple rent roll and inputting that data into the MSA Analyzer is outlined in the MSA Analyzer tutorial PDF document. But if you have any additional questions, please reach out to us by visiting our website at www.msanalytica.com.